All right, welcome to Inside the Mind's Eye. Welcome back. I'm going to share today about how I got sober, what happened. So, before I start the story, I guess I want to kind of paint the picture of what my life looked like before I got sober. This was way back in May of 2013, May 5th to be precise. Cinco de Mayo was the day that I used for the last time. But up until that point, and I was 25 years old at the time. So up until that point, my life as an addict and an alcoholic was one of constant drug use, basically. Like I would wake up in the morning, I would go to work. I would try to get off work as quickly as I possibly could because I would start to get clammy and sick. And then I'd get in my car and I'd drive out to meet up with the dude. And I would wait anywhere from 30 minutes to 3.5 hours to get what I needed. And then I would go home and I would play Dark Souls until I passed out and wake up and do it all over again. That was basically the last 6 months of my use. And if I didn't have money, I would steal. I would steal from my friends and my family. I would be sick. I'd be in and out of withdrawals pretty just constantly. My nose was always running down to my chin, so they would say. If you've seen Train Spotting, if you've seen Requiem for a Dream, if you've seen the Basketball Diaries, those are good portraits of what it looks like in active addiction. And that's the life that I lived from the age of, probably from the age of 21 was the first time I realized I had a substance abuse problem, that I was addicted to substances. At the time, it was opiates, till I was 25. So 21 to 25, I was in and out of rehabs, in and out of treatments. That's what my life was like before I got sober. And then May 2013, I used for the last time. And so I want to share with you guys what happened. Like, how did it happen? I've been sober ever since. So it was a Wednesday, and I was at Papa John's. I went to Papa John's to pick up pizza for my family because on Wednesday nights we watched Survivor with Jeff Probsty. So I got to the parking lot of the Papa John's. I used in my car. I got the pizza. I drove over to their house. We start watching Survivor. My sister's there. My niece is there. My mom and my dad are there. We're in the living room. And my mom starts talking about this engagement ring that she has that she wants to eventually give to me to give to my future wife. And while she's talking, I'm sitting there thinking about how I'm going to sneak up into her bathroom to steal it so I could pawn it and get some money. And I look over at my sister, who has my niece on her lap, and I realize in that moment that I'd actually never held my niece. She was 6 months old at the time. And after I had that thought, it was like something like I saw myself objectively. It was like I saw Adam sitting on the couch in his family's living room. And I saw that this person added no value to any of these people's lives, that he was not helpful or holistic in any way, and I was deeply ashamed and deeply disappointed of the person that I had become. And I decided that I was going to go home and detox myself. And so I left that night, and I went back to my house, the house I was living in. I called a friend and I told her I was going to detox myself, and I started the withdrawal process. And if you ever want a good idea of what that looks like, those movies that I referenced all have great examples. The best one is the Basketball Diaries, when Leo is banging on his mom's apartment door, just wailing and crying, "I just need some money." When he's doing that. That for me is what it looked like. That was definitely my experience as a junkie, as a dope fiend. Because it was, I for some weird reason, I didn't really steal from strangers. I stole from my mom and my dad and my friends. Like, I would steal from people I knew. So I start the withdrawal process, and by the second day, I'm trying to figure out how to use. I go to my roommate's or my housemate's room, and I'm looking at the wad of cash that he has that I'd taken from plenty of times before, and for some reason in that moment, I couldn't steal the cash. I couldn't take it. So I go back into my room, and I continue suffering. I continue clamminess and pain in your gut. I ended up in the driveway on the phone with my dope dealer. I had no gas in my car. I had no money in my pocket. I was on the phone. He picked up. I'm just like, did you got anything? And he's like, yeah, get out here. And I'm just like, okay. And I hung up. I didn't know how I was going to get there. So I didn't get there. By the third day, I'm standing in my housemate's room. He was a Marine. And I am looking in his closet, and I pull out his rifle, and I open it up, and I'm staring at it, and I'm thinking about the thing that you may think about when you've got your roommate's rifle out in his room. And I'm contemplating what I'm thinking about, and this thought pops in my head. And the thought was, if you do this, if you pull the trigger on your own existence, you won't be able to see the new Star Wars movie. And I closed the case, and I slid it back into the closet, and I went back to my room to continue the detox process. And that was a turning point of the withdrawal, because from that moment forward, I began to think about all the things that could be good. Like if I could get through the detox, what it would feel like to feel the sun on my skin, what it would feel like to wake up in the morning and not need something to be okay. I began to imagine maybe going to Israel, maybe traveling the world, all these things that I could do if I could just get through the detox. And I got through it. And I ended up on the 6th or 7th day meeting my father for lunch at a bagel shop. And I'm driving there, and on the way there, I'm thinking, I'm going to try to ask him for some money. And by the way, this is the thing about powerlessness and drug addiction and alcoholism for me. It's like, I will use, like, that's what it means to be powerless over drugs and alcohol for me. Like, against my best efforts, against my own will, against my best judgments, I'm going to get high. I'm going to drink. I'm going to use. Like, that's what I do. Like, I've never had a craving for drugs or alcohol and not done the drugs or alcohol. Never once. So I'm driving to meet my dad I'm thinking I'm going to get some money from him, and I'm sitting across from him, and he asked me how it's been going. And for some reason in that moment, I couldn't lie. I couldn't lie to him. And I said, I've been relapsing. And he looked at me and he said, okay, so what are you going to do? Like I'd shared earlier, like they'd sent me to rehabs, they'd helped me get out of school, get back into school, they'd tried everything they could for years. And I said, I guess I'm going to go to a meeting. And I left that lunch, and I drove to the first 12-step meeting I'd ever been to, a clubhouse outside Atlanta. And I'm on the way driving to the meeting, and I'm crossing over a bridge, and this thought pops in my head. I could use one last time. I could use one more time after this meeting if I really wanted to. And I look over at the dope kit that's next to me, and my arm, and this is what's crazy about it, is I have that thought, and my arm goes to the dope kit, rolls the window down, and throws it out. So my body is doing for me what I can't do for myself in my own head. I'm thinking about using one more time after the meeting while my body is tossing all the paraphernalia I had. And I got to that meeting, and I realized sitting in the meeting, once I got in there, I was like, if I don't do anything, I am going to get high. Like it's only a matter of time. I will use again. And I recognized experientially for myself in that moment at that meeting, step one, I'm powerless over drugs and alcohol. My life is completely unmanageable. I can't decide to do or not do anything. I'm screwed. And so I'm looking up at the steps on the wall, because all the clubhouses always have the steps up there. And I'm reading through, and I realize I've never done all the steps. All the people that I'd seen pick up year chips. So in recovery, in 12-step recovery, when you're sober for a year, traditionally, or depending on the group that you're in, you'll go up when they hand out chips for how long you've been sober. You'll go up and pick up a year chip once it's your birthday, and you'll share how you did it. And I'd seen hundreds of people pick up that chip and all say the same shit. They all said the exact same goddamn thing. They said, I got a sponsor, I worked the steps, and now I'm sponsoring other men and women, or women. And now my life is unimaginably great. I couldn't have imagined the life I get to live today. It's beyond my wildest dreams. They all said the same shit. And so I'm sitting in that meeting, I'm looking at the wall, I'm realizing I've never actually done all the steps, especially step 12. I've never carried the message to another alcoholic or an addict. And I decided in that moment that I was going to do it. I'm going to do all the steps. I'm going to stay, I'm going to do everything. I'm going to pray in the morning. They say to pray, I'm going to pray. They say to go to meetings, I'm going to go to meetings. If I'm not doing anything, I'm going to a meeting. If someone gives me their phone number, I'm going to call them the next day, no matter what. For me, it was life and death. For me, it was, if I don't do what everyone has been talking about and have been suggesting, I will use again. And for me, if I use again, I don't stop. I don't have a stop button. I don't know how to not, like I said, if I get a craving, I use. And so I shared in that meeting exactly what had happened, and where I was at. And then someone came up to me afterwards and said, "Hey man, I'll be your sponsor." And I've been sober ever since. So that's what happened. That's how I got sober. I want to talk more. I want to share a little bit more about what it's been like. There's been some certain events through the course of my sobriety in my life that were interesting. There are things there's perspectives that I have about certain things that I think could be helpful or at least entertaining or interesting to listen to. But I also don't want to keep going on in this one video. So if you enjoyed the story, if you liked it, throw a like. If you subscribe, if you want to subscribe, you can subscribe. If you are interested and want to know more about what I shared, leave a comment, ask a question, whatever you want. If you guys like this stuff, I'll keep sharing stories and I'll keep talking a little bit more about what it's like to exist and to go from a drug addict to a relatively sober, relatively sane person. I don't believe insanity. I think that, first of all, it's just weird that there's a voice talking to you in your head. If you're experiencing a voice in your head, to me, that's insane, but that's what we all experience. And I was 25 when I got sober. I was 27 when I had my waking up. The big book of Alcoholics Anonymous refers to it as a spiritual experience. When I had Abraham Maslow, I think Carl Rogers and Carl Jung, one of them refers to it as a peak experience. The Zen and the Tao refer to it as like a Satori experience. It's called a Satori. Enlightenment is like the term that they use. These terms, like, they can be misinterpreted in many different ways. But something happened to me when I was 27, and I woke up, basically. And I saw very clearly for the first time. I saw and I experienced reality for what it was, and I just saw something. So I could talk about that too if that's of interest. Just like I said, if you want to hear more, if you're interested, like, subscribe, leave a comment. I'm happy to share some more. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you have a great rest of the day. I feel like I left us on a cliffhanger, like, what happened, bro? I'll do another video about it. I have no problem talking about it. But I hope you're well. And until next time, stay excellent.